Hello. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know we've got a couple more people registered than what are here yet, so we'll give them a few seconds to keep coming in, but we'll go ahead and get started with some of the ground rules for the webinar. We do thank you for joining the Nevada Department of Wildlife for Conservation Education Program. This is a family program and is rated PG. Profanity or inappropriate behavior will not be tolerated in the chat or the Q&A. All questions in the chat box or Q&A box should be kept on topic, please. Failing to follow these guidelines will result in being muted in the chat and Q&A, or even being removed from the live stream altogether. So let's just keep it fun and entertaining. We're gonna have a fun program for you today, and hopefully you guys get a lot out of it. I've had a lot of fun putting this one together. We're gonna cover the science behind that great spring scavenger hunt for the treasures that are left by elk and deer every spring for us. So we're gonna talk about antlers. I am Julie Gabrielson. I'm a conservation educator with the Department of Wildlife, and I am based out of the Elko office in the eastern region of the state. In the background is Nicole St. John, who is an AmeriCorps member that works with me there in the eastern region. She's going to be helping out with the Q&A and chat questions as well. So feel free to use the chat and ask questions about what's going on. She will be taking notes, and if we can't cover the questions right away, we will get to them at the end for sure. A few things on how to use Zoom if you're not familiar with that. We do have the split screen feature up where you can see the bulk of the presentation on one side and then a video of me on the other. There's a small kind of greenish grayish bar next in between them that you can move back and forth in order to make one side bigger than the other and see it that way. We do allow the chat to stay open, and then on the question and answer, there is that box where you can go in and ask directly through there. And they may be answered live. Those might be directed to me by Nicole, or she may also answer them through the text on the Q&A as well. So let's get started on shedding the light on antlers. We do also ask that you stick around at the end of the presentation and fill out the survey to help us better serve you and figure out how we're doing and how you guys are receiving it and what else you would like to see. So let's talk about antlers and what has antlers in Nevada. In Nevada, we have mule deer and we have elk, and we've recently started getting some moose in Nevada as well. So they are also an antlered animal. But mule deer and buck and bulls or elk are going to be the primary ones that we talk about through this. Mule deer have bucks, which are the males, and elk have bulls, which are the males. As you can see from the pictures, we've got the does, who are the females, and the cows that are the females of the elk and deer families. So the mule deer buck and the bull elk are the ones that have the antlers. And then a bull moose would also have them. So what are the antlers used for? So some uses include defense against predators and asserting dominance, frequently against others of the same species for food resources. They are a defensive mechanism. You can see that picture down in the lower right corner with the mountain lion and the deer fighting off the mountain lion. They're also used for claiming territory, signal of their readiness to breed and claim it. They're also used as a tool to reach up and get high fruit or leaves or something off of a tree, as well as digging wallows and beds in the ground. But there's also some theory that it's really just about the girls. It's a common belief among a lot of biologists that the antlers have evolved to facilitate competition between males and females, ultimately impressing the girls. It's all about the girls, that headgear. So we're going to launch our first poll question and ask about what causes the antler to fall off. So go ahead and answer that question. Is it warmer weather? Is it hormones? Is it a new antler underneath pushing it off, kind of like a tooth grows in? So feel free to go ahead and fill out your polling. We'll give it a few seconds and let everybody get that done. Like seeing all those answers coming in. All right. right. Okay, we'll go ahead and end that and I'll share the results. So some of you, the bulk of you have said it's a new antler pushing it off kind of like a tooth. A few of you answered warmer weather, a few of you answered hormones. Well, let's take a look at this, because actually each year after the rut, which is their breeding season, the testosterone hormone levels drop to a level that causes the growth to stop entirely. Once the growth is stopped, it triggers a specialized cell called osteoclasts, and humans even have those. And those cells eat away at the pedicle, which is the base of the antler. That causes the antler to get really weak and fall off. And the process can take several weeks to happen before the antler actually falls off. And I'm going to show you a picture of that pedicule, and you can see, you know, in a few slides you'll see that, so that you can see what the base looks like and how it would start to deteriorate. So in fact, the new antler has not even started to come in yet. That will come later. But several things can play a role in whether they shed their antlers in January or April or sometime in between. Age plays a role in it. The older bucks usually shed a little bit later than the younger bucks. Physical condition plays a role in it. You know, a buck that might be less healthy, has had an injury, hasn't gotten the food intake or water intake that it should, they may shed their antlers a little bit sooner. And habitat and climate can play a role in it as well, because it comes back to the health of the buck. So what starts the new growth? I'm going to have you guys use your chat and tell me what you think starts the new growth. Do we have any suggestions? What starts the new growth? Hormones. Good, I see some answers coming in now. Hormones, okay. So yes, hormones actually play a huge role in the growth of the antlers and the antlers altogether. With the change of seasons and the increase in daylight hours, the testosterone hormone levels begin to increase. It triggers the antler to start growing again from the pedicle. And I'm getting to that picture, that pedicle for you. The hormone increases also triggers growth in the neck muscles, which is why we start seeing those bucks and bulls get so beefed up towards the rut in their breeding season, because that testosterone is so intense that it's really building up those muscles. Okay, so here is the pedicle. This is how the antler grows. It grows from bone, and just like the parts of the skeleton, the antler grows from bone. The antler grows from a bone pedicle, which is that bottom left-hand corner picture where you can see where the base of the antler grows from. It's a heavy growth period from spring until about August, and it begins with a layer upon layer of cartilage that mineralizes into bone. And you can see that from that top picture. And it kind of shows how it builds up. And through that growth period, it continues to build up and grow stronger and stronger into the hard matter of the bone. You can see how in that bottom right corner, all the little cartilage and the air spaces in between there, that's what you will see if you were to cut an antler open. All right, so why is it fuzzy? Well, in that growth period, antlers are really tender, and anything can, it actually will keep them from going into heavy foraged areas and under heavy trees, because they're so tender they don't want to bump them. So that velvet protects them, because that it's carrying all kinds of blood flow to that growing tissue and helping it to get the nutrients that it needs. So some fun velvet facts we're going to get into, but first we're going to launch our second poll. All right, so our second poll, what is it used for? Okay, we talked about that. When it comes to the use of the animal carrying it, the bull or the mule deer buck, What is velvet used for? Could it be used to make clothing? Nobody ever finds it to use it, or to make homeopathic medicine and supplements. So I'll give you a couple seconds to let you guys answer that question. All right. It is very hard to find out there. I have been fortunate enough to find a few little tiny shreds of it over my many years of being out there, but it is very difficult to find out there. All right, we're going to go ahead and end it so we can move on, share the results. So the bulk of you are right to make homeopathic medicine and supplements. It has, it's been used for so many years over in the Orient, has used it for medicinal purposes. They've used it for homeopathic medicines. They've used it for supplements. There's even some on the current market right now that will supposedly help with muscle growth, even for us as humans. Velvet is the only regenerating skin found in mammals, and a healthy bull elk can produce up to 10 pounds of velvet a year. And I put that milk carton there because a gallon of milk is a little over about 8.5 pounds. So that kind of gives you an idea of a weight bearing. So when you pick up a gallon of milk, it's actually a little bit heavier than that with the amount of velvet that a healthy bull elk can produce every year. Kind of some cool facts about our velvet. All right, we're going to launch another poll for you. Find my poll question in here. How fast will the antler grow? Is it going to grow 12 inches a day, a half inch a day, 1 to 3 inches a day? What do you guys think? I'll give you a couple seconds to answer that. All right, good. We'll give it just a couple more seconds for a few more of you to get in on the poll. Okay, most of you answered a half an inch a day. We'll share those results so you can see what everybody's answering. Now, so most of you answered a half an inch a day. What it actually is 1 to 3 inches a day. On average, antlers grow up to 1 inch a day. However, some can grow over 3 inches a day. Some of your bigger bulls that get into those higher numbers, the active growth period is about 120 days. So they do have lots of time to get there, but some will reach up to 3 inches a day and some even a little bit more than that. But the average is just 1 inch a day. So where'd the velvet go? Because we frequently find all of the sheds as a hard antler. There's no more velvet on it when we find them in the spring. Where'd it go? Well, in the testosterone hormone level. Testosterone plays a huge role, like I said in the beginning, with the antler growth. And as the breeding season gets closer, August, September is coming around, higher levels of testosterone hormone causes the antler growth to slow. It doesn't stop altogether, but it does slow significantly. With this, the flow of the blood and nutrition to the antler is cut off and the velvet dries up. So we use those blood vessels there as an example so that you could see that when that blood vessel starts to dry up, it's constricting. And that's what causes that velvet to dry up and irritate the deer or the bull even. At this point, the deer or elk will rub their antlers on trees, on shrubs, fencing, even into the ground. And I've seen them do it on rocks before to rub the remaining velvet off. From about 12 hours to a week, some even take more than that to complete the velvet peeling. Some aggressive deer or elk, they'll peel it in just a couple of hours. They really get after it. And it really, that is determined by the temperament of the bull or the buck that are shedding that velvet off. There have been some people that have said that the bucks and the bulls will even eat the velvet after the peeling is complete. that is done for a couple different reasons. It's believed that they do it for a couple different reasons. One is the consumption of the protein that comes from that velvet, but also used as a way to avoid predators because they're not leaving a trail towards them of the velvet that they've just peeled off of their antlers. So here you can see we've got one that's cleaned all up and ready for the rut. So how many of you guys have picked up an antler before and wondered what roots and knobs and ruts are caused from? I know I frequently wondered about it until I learned all about what they come from. And that it's pretty simple. They are the vessels that the blood carried through there, and they left those trails throughout the antler and through that growth period. You can kind of see how in that bottom right hand black and white picture, how the blood vessels kind of curve all around the antler and the cartilage as it's growing into the bone. And that's what it's done, is it's left those grooves in there. All right, does size of the antler really matter? Most hunters would say absolutely yes. And that actually holds true in the animal kingdom as well. Larger antlers are an indicator of health and strength. So the females, you know, your doe deer and your cow elk, they are going to look for the most fit male to breed with because it gives the best chance of survival for the offspring. So yes, size does matter with the antler because it portrays that health and strength. So these two things get frequently confused. What's the difference between a horn and an antler? You know, which one is which? So we've got a couple examples up there. Antler, which is what we've been talking about. It grows from a skin-covered nub on the skull. The solid mass that grows from bone, only males grow them, and they shed them every year. The horn, on the other hand, is hollow. It grows over a pointed, bony core that actually stems straight out of the skull. It grows from keratin, so it grows from a completely different element and protein off from the body, and it's usually grown by both sexes. And it does not shed each year. There are a few exceptions there. The antelope, they do shed their horns every year, but they are still considered a horn for the rest of the reasoning there and the specifications and definition of horn to antler. So there is a big difference between an antler and a horn, and those are the primary ones right there for you. So progress of antler growth. Mule deer, in the first year, you'll see the little nubs on their head. It might be kind of difficult to see them because there's still actually hair covered on that first year deer there. In their second year, they might grow some little spikes. They might even grow into a small 2-point or forked horn. And in the third year, that's when they really start getting their bulk and their mass, and they start getting more points to it. And things that will determine that are genetics, along with the habitat that they have. If they're in really good habitat, it gives them more protein to put into that growth. And the genetics also play a big role in that. Elk are not much different. They've got the nubs on the top of the head on the skull, and then you've got the second year bull where you've got a spike, and they might have grown into a 2-point or forky. And then the third year, again, just like the deer, they start gathering more points and more mass and more bulk. Is there shed hunting in Nevada? Absolutely. It is a great sport to get out on. We do have a regulation with it, though. A person may not take or gather shed antlers from public land in Elko, Eureka, Lander, Lincoln, Nye, or White Pine counties from January 1st to April 30th of each year. So from May 1st until December 31st, shed hunting is open. So we're going to launch another poll for you. Have you ever shed hunt before? Have you ever been fortunate enough to get out there and partake in that? Whenever you get a chance to, never have, but really want to, don't even know where to start, or you've gone once or twice. All right, we're gonna give it a few more seconds for a couple more of you guys to join in on it. Okay, give it about 10 more seconds for the rest of you to get your poll answered. Okay, we're going to go ahead and end this, and I'll share the results for all of you. So the bulk of you have never done it but really want to, and there's several of you that don't even know where to start. It is a great way to get out and, you know, shake out the winter bones and get out there and enjoy the spring and what everything's left for us. So there's several ways you can get started. Find a friend that has been out there and can tell you where a good spot would be to go. Get out and just explore. You can you know, go out and see in the earlier seasons where you might have seen animals, and you might go check that place out as well. But there's several different options for it, and it's a great way to get out, and it is so family friendly, and I encourage everybody to get out there. Grab your kids, grab your wife, your husband, grandparents. You can make a full day of it, a weekend of it. We have lots of people that do that, and it makes for a lot of fun. All right, so that's pretty much the gist of the presentation. Do we have questions? It sounds like our Q&A is not working today. We don't have it, but that's okay. We can do it all through chat.
Julie, it looks like we do have a few questions that came in through chat for you.
Okay, I'm going to start working through those. I'll go up to the top. All right, where do bucks get the calcium for the antlers? It seems that they eat mostly plants. Yes, their body actually can take that protein that they get from the vegetation, and it turns it into what they need for the growth of their bones. What antlers? Like we went back through, I think I'd already answered this one, but we'll go ahead and cover it again. So that first year, they're showing just the nubs of the antlers growing their antlers or out of their head. I'm going to actually take it back so you can see that. So here's the mule deer one. First year, they start having the nubs. Second year is when they start growing something that's truly visible, anywhere from that single spike to the forked horn. And then that third year is when they start growing even more. Pronghorn shed their horns. They do it a little bit different time of year though. They do it in the fall. Usually November is about the time that pronghorn shed theirs. What are the reasons people are not allowed to take antlers from public land in elk from that time frame? So that is done because that can be a pretty critical time for our wildlife after coming out of heavy winters and trying to get to their summer range, and that it's to reduce the pressure on them so that they can get there without losing any more weight and be able to get into their summer range in a healthy state. Where do bucks get the keratin to replace the antlers? So keratin is actually in the horn. So that would be on your sheep, your mountain goats, your pronghorn. And the keratin also comes from the food that they eat. Their body is able to convert that over to build the horn. And where do you look for sheds? Again, there's lots of places around the state that you can find them. The biggest thing is to find a transition point for them and where they have been coming out of their wintering range. And that's typically when they're going to start shedding their antlers. All right, we answered that one. When searching for antlers, wouldn't you need gloves? No, I guess you could. Sometimes it's cold enough that I end up wearing gloves when I'm out there. But as far as touching things, they're not pokey. They don't hurt you. If you're reaching into bushes to get them, because there are some times that they shed them into a tree and they're deep down into a sagebrush or something, then it might be easier for you to get to them. But in general, no, you can barehand it and pick them up without any problems at all. Will a mature animal have the same number of points each year? Not necessarily. So a healthy buck will continue to progress, and sometimes they might just kind of flatline out and continue to be the same way for a couple of years, but then they'll also get to a certain age where they begin to decrease in size each year. They regress, and they might have gone from a beautiful, you know, the mule deer buck that I have up on the far right of the screen right now, that might have been their final stage before they started regressing, and their antler might get a little deformed in that regression, but they will definitely lose some size and mass. Where can you find baby deer? So baby deer is a luck of the draw thing. You know, the does are going to find a nice secluded place where they can fawn and have their babies where it's going to be safer for them. I did actually see 2 babies in Lamoille Canyon, and it was by absolute chance. You've got to be watching for them and kind of get lucky when they finally poke their head out. We do encourage that if you find a baby deer, don't assume that it has been abandoned. A baby deer, a fawn, the does will frequently leave them alone for several different reasons. One is to go find food or water. Another is to deter a predator from the baby, from the fawn, and then they will come back. So if you see a fawn just laying in the grass and kind of, you know, hiding out, it's very likely it has not been abandoned. So just leave it alone and move along. Okay, so you cannot take shed antlers before the 1st of May because in that early spring, January through May, that is their primary transition time between their winter and summer ranges, and they have a chance of being harassed and move too much and losing some of their body mass that they've done so much work for to try to maintain through that winter, because winters can be really hard on them. So by taking the pressure off of them from shed hunters, it just reduces that much more stress for their bodies going into the summer ranges. All right, did I cover everything? All right, where should someone look for shed antlers? Again, there are many different places that you can find them. There's not one specific place to find them. The biggest key for looking for shed antlers is to find a transition area for them. And that's going to be a big point of where they start losing their antlers and shedding them. All right, how are we doing? Did I get all of the questions? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and start wrapping it up a little bit. I thank you again for coming and joining us on this presentation. And we encourage you to get out and embrace the outdoors, but we also ask you to practice responsible recreation. The screen that I have up right now, you can find out more information on responsible recreation and at the website down below, that www.responsible/recreation.org or hash. And yes, this should be recording, and within a week or so, we should be able to see it up on our YouTube channel for the Nevada Department of Wildlife. So finding transition zones between wintering and summering areas is really about getting out there and exploring the country. So there's several migration areas that you can track down, but to find them, it's really about getting out there and learning the territory. All right, do we have any other questions? All right, well, if we don't have any more questions, we're gonna go ahead and end it. And again, thank you very much, and get out there and recreate responsibly. Have a good time doing it. Be safe, be smart. And we do ask you to jump onto that survey and tell us how we did today. Have a great day, guys, and a great weekend ahead. Thank you.